This is a case about a young woman who has a caregiver's heart, but no longer has a caregiver's future. But what we haven't heard yet, and what's still very important in this case, is that although they've said a lot about that they're sorry, but what we haven't heard in this case yet is they have not accepted full responsibility for the harm that they caused to Kirsha. They haven't done that. And in fact, we showed it to you. They have never taken her injuries as seriously as they claim. And they've denied that she's permanently injured. But what's the evidence been in this case? Have they presented anything? Well, we know they didn't present any evidence, but did they present anything to contradict Dr. Karsh, who said she's permanently injured? But yet they denied it. In opening statement, you heard from counsel for the defense, and he carefully spoke about, yeah, we agree she's injured, but never would admit that this is something she'll have to deal with for the rest of her life. This is not a temporary injury that's going to go away. It's permanent. And we heard from the corporate representative for Loomis. You remember Mr. Dowling, and we're going to talk about him when we talk about credibility and impeachment. I asked him about this, and it was very difficult to get a straight answer out of him. And then he said something that was pretty strange. He said, well, you know, one of our armored trucks, it can do about as much damage as a Ford 350. Well, I think we all kind of said that's pushing it a bit, because even in voir dire, I think we heard juror number 28 say, these hardened steel, bulletproof armored trucks, they're like tanks on the road. And when you have a tank on the road and someone who is driving it carelessly in a busy intersection with other vehicles, kids, potentially, people can get seriously and permanently injured. And ultimately, Kirsha is the one who paid the price for that decision. So that's another reason why we're here in this case, and we need your help. So I'll briefly touch on the burden of proof. We have the burden of proving the non-economic and economic damages, and you've heard from the defense. They haven't presented any evidence whatsoever to contradict or to undermine any of the damages that we've proven in this case. Not a single witness, not one. And so we've met our burden, and we'll talk about that in this case as well. So let's briefly talk about credibility of witnesses. We could have called a lot more, but we put on only the ones that you needed to hear. And to a person, everyone from her grandmother to Roberta Johnson, the family that she cared for, every witness that you heard from that we put up was credible. And Your Honor is going to charge you that ultimately it's your decision to decide which witnesses you should believe or not believe. And you look at their demeanor, you look at their interest in the case, you see if they were evasive or not, and ultimately you decide, you make that decision. But I think you will see that every witness you heard from that we put up was credible. Now on the other side, let's talk about Mr. Dowling. Remember, Mr. Dowling is not just testifying in his own capacity. He's testifying as the corporate rep for Loomis. So in other words, he's speaking for Loomis. And when he got on that stand under oath, we had to impeach him several times. And Your Honor will charge you that impeachment means you're testifying differently on the stand than you testified previously in this case under oath. So you'll be charged that if you find that a witness was impeached, you can disregard what they have to say. You can say they're not credible. So in this case, we impeached Mr. Dowling as the corporate rep several times. So ultimately, you can determine that Loomis has not been credible in this case. And again, Mr. Dowling was evasive on a number of issues, just straightforward things. He wouldn't give a straight answer. That's been the evidence in this case. So let's talk about the medical testimony that proves she has a permanent lifelong injury. We heard from Dr. Robert Karsh. He's a board-certified orthopedic surgeon. He testified that the bone shattered and that it was a very serious injury. That was the evidence in this case. And I don't want to just talk about it. We'll briefly show some clips so it's clear that I didn't misconstrue any of the evidence.